Ultimate Morning Show this. Thank God it's Friday on Raypower 100.5 FM. And I am Dima. And of course, Chooks is here with me in the studio this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigerians. Happy Eid al-Fitr to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Today's today's the day of celebration.
Yeah.
Finally, they had one extra day of fast, yesterday, to just get their spirits ready for today.
Mm.
And the day is finally here, and you can celebrate, with your friends and family. And I'm looking forward to seeing their beautiful pictures, their beautiful faces
In
as well
fact,
on
some
social
people are
media.
already doing their skits on social where they lie down and then lay their clothes and their shoes and accessories. Like they cannot just wait for this Ramadan, checking time impatiently.
Yeah.
Like just come, just come, just come. We want to start. It's a good one that the fasting is over. Now it's remaining for our Christian sisters and brothers who are the Catholic faith who are still on their own fast. I'll be celebrating in the next 2 weeks. So yes, it's a very good one. Barakah the Eid al Kabir to you and to your loved ones and to your friends and family. But it is time for us to check out the papers, like you heard that bit. It is a newspaper review, and we are ready to let you know the stories that are dominating the papers this Friday, 20th March 2026. Now, we're starting off with the Daily Global newspaper. Tinubu departs London after historic state visit. So that is done, that is dusted, and he is coming back. Now, IGP Disu receives NPTF Executive Secretary, seeks strengthened partnership for police reforms. That is another story from the Daily Global. And before I move on to the next story, just want to let you know that we are live on YouTube at Ray Power Network. If you want to join the conversation there live or watch the newspaper review live, do head over to YouTube, search for Ray Power Network and Raypower Abuja rather, and you will get that. Now to other stories. Troops of 6th Brigade arrest suspected gun runners, recover 444 rounds of ammunition in Taraba State. Christian or Muslim, vote for general peace and unity is another story here. Nigeria, UK seal £746 million deal to redevelop Tinkan and Apapa ports. That's another story. Fidelity Bank powers women's growth with Give Her Power Skill and Support series. Now, kidnapped cocoa farmers rescued in Oyo State. Good news. Okpayolo facilitates free dental screening procedures for Edo residents. Now, troop of 6th Brigade again arrests suspected gun runners, recover 444 rounds of ammunition in Taraba. And that story showed up twice on the front page of the Daily Global. Above the nameplate, fixtures, dates, venue of Champions League quarterfinals already there. That one opens on the front page. And that's it from the Daily Global this morning.
All right, now to the front page of the Nigerian Pilot, we have Global Terrorism Index. Nigeria ranks fourth. IEP report places Nigeria behind Pakistan, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, says Nigeria recorded 46% increase in killings in 2025, moved 2 places up among countries with deteriorating terrorism problem, as PDP ADC urged Tinubu security hierarchy to adopt proactive approach to tackle terrorism. NLC raises concern over rising insecurity, page 5. Idel Fitri, Mieti Allah cautions members against carrying knives, machetes, others on page 5. Ohaneze appoints 4 professors to salvage Igbo language from extinction, page 9. Nigerian visitors pump £178 million into UK economy in 2024, says King Charles, page 7. Nigeria receives 11,520 doses of groundbreaking HIV prevention vaccine, page 6. IDP camp, NHRC seeks protection of children from abuse, trafficking, page 6. Kebbi government probes death of 2 children at Zuru General Hospital, page 8. And PDP caretaker committee insists on March convention despite court rulings, page 10. And that's the front page of the Nigerian Pilot.
Now we'll move over to the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, where the big story says Nigeria, UK sealed £747 million deal to modernize Lagos port. Now that's a little bit of variation in terms of the amount from the one we got from the Daily Global, which had said 746. This is 747. All right, this one for the story is on page 15 of the Nigerian News Direct. Okay, now on Borno bombing, Zulum apologizes for insecurity surge. Warns collaborators, says worst days are over. Okay, find out details on that on page 12. TEF to unveil 2026 winners on Sunday, set to disburse $16 million, recovers over 265,000 or receives rather over 265,000 applicants, also on page 12. Now above the nameplate of Nigerian News Direct, Keredolu defects to Labour Party, eyes senatorial seat in Imo. Okay, that is on page 13. NUPRC links bile gas seepage to deep level geological activity. Page 15 read, prolonged energy price surge could decimate growth, ignite inflation globally. Coming from warning from IMF, and this one is on page 15, and that's about it from the Nigerian News Direct this morning.
All right, now to the Daily Sun. We have Sultan charges military to take war to terrorist dens, urges soldiers to be proactive instead of being reactionary. Nigeria bleeding, killings must stop, says NLC, and that's on page 6. How NCAA lost consumer protection battle to FCCPC in 2018. Airlines deny price fixing as expert warns against regulator clash, page 26. Abia APC blasts LP over attack on Senator Kalu, page 6. FG UK, okay, £746 million for refurbishment of Lagos ports, page 32. PDP ADC hit FG, Tinubu as Nigeria grabs 4th spot in global terror deaths. Starts on the front page and continues on page 6. Senate leader Bamidele urges overhaul of approach to insecurity, calls for blend of kinetic, non-kinetic strategies, page 37. And Eid al-Fitr, Barao governors, OB, others call for continuous prayers. And that's on page 33. That's it for the Daily Sun.
All right, now to the Daily Monitor. Sultan to military, take the war to terrorists, don't wait for attacks. Says Maiduguri bombings un-Islamic, should not be associated with teachings of Islam, urges government to summon political will to stamp out criminal elements across Nigeria. This opens on the front page and continues on page 2. Nigeria seek partnership with British to curb security challenges, according to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There says, despite challenges, Nigerian trained doctors, nurses indispensable in UK's NHS, and visitors from Nigeria spent £178 million in 2024, says King Charles. This story is on page 2 of the Daily Monitor this morning. Now, Obi knocks federal government as Nigeria ranks 4th in global terror death. This opens on the front page here, continues on page 2. Local cooperation critical to ending insurgency, coming from the Chief of Defense Staff there on page 4. Retired police officers, protesters to storm presidential villa on Tuesday. This is on page 2. How federal government can tackle security challenge, coming from the People's Democratic Party there on page 2. And also on page 2, Nigeria UK signed £747 million deal to refurbish 2 major ports. That also, like I said, is on page 2. That's about it from the Daily Monitor.
Now to this Nigeria, we have recovered loot. EFCC transfers 3.94 billion naira back to NNPC, page 5. DHQ clears air on CDS remarks, calls for community support, page 7. NDLEA seizes cannabis, nabs suspect in Kano before Eid, on page 4. Senate seeks security reforms, urges unity, support for vulnerable Nigerians, page 12, and that's the front page of this Nigeria.
To the Standard Times, Nigeria, UK sign agreement on deportation of irregular migrants, asylum seekers, and offenders. This opens on the front page and continues on page 2. NDLEA secures conviction of 10 Filipino sailors. Vessels fined $6 million over 20 kg cocaine trafficking. Opens on the front page as well, continues on page 3. Police assures peaceful celebration of Eid al-Fitr, arrests 75 suspects in Imo State. This you can read on page 8. NSIA UK firm seal $500 million deal to launch mega diary hub in Nigeria. Page 2, read there. Nigeria ranked fourth in global terror index as ADC blames Tinubu, proposes security overhaul. This is on page 3. NNPC increased crude supply to Dangote refinery amid oil price surge. This one is on page 2. And Quest Merchant Bank named transaction advisor for Nigeria's landmark project, Bridge Digital Infrastructure Initiative. This is on page 3. Army arrests 2 gun runners, recover 444 rounds of ammunition in Taraba State. You can read this one on page 8. Fidelity Bank powers women's growth with Give Her Power Skills and Support series on page 9. And above the nameplate of the Standard Times, Shippers Council initiates dialogue with freight forwarders over tariff hike. This opens on the front page here, continues on page 9. Now, Lagos task force impounds 8 vehicles for one-way driving in Ikorodu. Page 13, read there. Very interesting. Police arrest 4 siblings over alleged killings of guard in Bauchi State. Sad. This one is on page 8. And that's it from the Standard Times.
All right, now to the disclosure news. We have, as bombing returns to northern Nigeria, more expected in coming weeks. That's coming from security analysts and the military. Killing of fellow Muslims during Iftar, devilish, anti-Islam, says cleric. Condemnations trail Tinubu's continued stay in UK, but according to reports, the president has
coming back already
to the country, and that's on page 2 of the disclosure news. National Convention, like PDP, APC may end in court over reform denial. Aspirants denied nomination forms after 5.1 million naira payment, threatening court action to stop March 27 convention. Committee printed 1 form only for each office as NWC members push for re-election, and action not in party's interest, legacy groups won. That's on page 2 as well. 2027 elections, INEC battling trust deficits. That's from Amupiton on page 13. Rise against NAS move to legalize certificate forgery. ADC charges ASU, CSO's NANS, page 13. Akpabio hails Muslims, urges compassion for less privileged, page 11. Why I absconded from home. That's a bit of entertainment there from Ashake on page 7. And a bit of sports here. 2025 AFCON controversy undermines confidence in CAF. That's from Motsepe, the CAF president, page 8. And that's it for the disclosure news.
All right, now what has the leadership got to say this morning? It begins with the story on Salah. Says Tinubu, governors advocates unity, pledge improved security. Akpabio urges compassion for the underprivileged. Security tightened in Borno amidst terror threats. This is on page 4. Take more decisive action against all criminals, Sultan tells federal government. Read that on page 10. Northern region retains an enviable status of poverty capital, coming from the ACF, Aruba Consultative Forum there. That is on page 6. Now, Sokoto cleric ignores Sultan's directive, leads Eid prayer on Thursday. Page 7, read there. King Charles draws praise for using Nigerian street phrase at banquet for Tinubu. That is on page 12. Now, Femi Fani Kayode, Dele Momodu trade insults on social media. Page 10, read there. I have no regret over my action as minister, coming from Malami, that is on page 7. And the federal government, UK, signed landmark £746 million deal to revamp Nigeria's port, page 7. Lastly, is the bit of the sports story here. Osimhen suffers broken arm and surgery looms. Read this one on 29. And that's it from the leadership newspaper.
All right, now to the Observer Times, we have Nigeria has arrived. King Charles III hails Nigeria as emerging global powerhouse. Nigeria, UK bolster military ties as Musa Koka meets at Lancaster. We also have British monarch praises Nigeria's transformation and mutual UK-Nigeria partnership at Windsor Castle. That's covered on page 1 of the Observer Times. PDP caretaker committee insists on March convention despite court rulings, page 6. ADC blasts Tinubu over rise in terrorism, cites 2026 Global Terrorism Index. And President Tinubu's fellow states with Muslim faithful urges renewed patriotism, page 6. NLC raises concern over rising insecurity, page 3. And that's it for the Observer's Times.
Quick break right now, and then just take the business story.
This is the newspaper review.
All right, looking at the business NG, we have 11 days to recapitalization. Polaris, Keystone, Union Bank, silent, customers anxious. Nigeria rises to 4th on Global Terrorism Index. Attack surges 43% in 2025. We also have reps warn of further petrol price hikes amid refinery supply challenges. 364-day T-bill offers yield advantage amid narrow sovereign curve spread, page 9. And lastly, IMF warns prolonged energy price surge could fuel global inflation, page 2. And that's it for the business stories this morning.
That's about it for the papers, actually. We have checked out the Nigerian News Direct, the Daily Global, Standard Times, the Daily Monitor, the Leadership newspaper.
We also looked at the Nigerian Pilots, the Daily Sun, This Nigeria, Disclosure News, Observer Times, and the Business NG. And well, not a good look for Nigeria when you look at the Global Terrorism Index. Nigeria ranking 4th. It's not something to be, happy about. It's something that you probably would have never imagined, for a country such as Nigeria. Never thought, we'd get to this point, but here we are. And how do we change this narrative? How do we turn this around? Is the big question. And when eventually are we going to turn things around? And it's just sad, to see the number of lives, being lost on the daily basis, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis as well, in the country. And my heart, just goes out to these communities, being affected by terrorism across, the country. It's a very sad one. The bombings in Borno not long ago, still fresh, in our minds. The military also warning that this might become a trend, once again, suicide bombings, which we just hope that we can tackle and nip in the bud as quickly as possible. Look at what also happened in Oyo State as well, people getting kidnapped. I think it was in the trying to remember the cocoa that individuals were kidnapped. So a very sad one there as well. So across board, we're facing this terror that is insecurity, this menace that is insecurity, and we just need to find a way through it. And it's not something that anybody should be happy about. It's not even just about politicizing it now. It's just the fact that nobody should be happy about this. And the president, Minister of Defense, service chiefs, everybody's hand needs to be on deck to salvage this situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, it is actually disheartening. It is not something that you want to. The steady progress, unfortunately, is not the kind of progress that we really need in terms of our ranking on this issue, this global index when it has to do with terrorism and insecurity. We seem to be moving two steps closer to being, on that highest rank, and it's really not speaking well. I just had to confirm, because I knew that there was a time we ranked 8th in that, and I was like, okay, maybe the jump was just too much. I just found out it's more like a steady progress.
46% increase. That's
because
huge
in
increase.
2023, 2024, we ranked 8th. 2025, we ranked 6th. And now this is 2026, we are ranking 4th. May God not let us rank second in in the whole issue. Funny, but not really funny. So really, the progress is not. If we see this kind of progress in our economy, everyone will be happy. But seeing this as something that is not good news is not something that we should take lightly. I don't think it has to do with the powers that the party in charge, the leading political parties and all. I think collectively, whoever has, in terms of the politicians, it's expected that every politician has expected has the interests of the people at heart. So let's think about the greater good of the country and see how we can all put heads together and see that we do better than this. We are very close to Pakistan. We are very close to Pakistan
Is
on this.
is very alarming. So even the CDS, talking about how some individuals, some people probably hide these terrorists. Mentioned um, Borno and another state, which the military has come out to clear the air on a statement, not indicting the entire populace. But there's been complaints, in the past that there are individuals who protect, who hide them, who give them shelter, in these villages and communities. And we just hope that they get to stop this. There needs to be more orientation to these people that it's actually wrong to harbor and shelter these people who are also killing your fellow citizens. We shouldn't be having such, but they've come out to clear the air on it. It's definitely not everybody living in these areas, but according to them there are people involved in doing that. And how do you begin to fight fight against such people? I'm not saying probably going physical, but getting into their minds to know that this is not the right thing to do. It's basically sabotaging the efforts of the military to bring normalcy, peace to these areas. And it's on different fronts, the physical, the military weapons involved and all of that, and then the mindset and hearts of certain people. Are you truly dedicated to the Nigerian state? Because if you are, you shouldn't be harboring anybody who's on the wanted list of the military, who the military is also going after as well.
Do you think that the Nigerian government is struggling to, you know, have a grasp of this issue of insecurity? Or maybe there are forces that really just do not want the government to do the needful when it comes to, because you will see spirited promises, you will see directives. That which happened in Borno led the president to give directive the service chiefs to all relocate to Borno. Just like when the one that happened in Benue, he says service chiefs to relocate to Benue. Is it a directive that comes out of a frantic effort to ensure there is peace and stability, or are we really meticulous in our planning to ensure that we deal or curb insecurity in the country? You just can't help but ask that question, because we cannot be crying at the time of an incident and the leaders are also joining us to cry and make frantic directives. It's assumed, it's supposed to be, that there have been measures and efforts put in place to ensure that we are fighting this issue. Is it that it is when an incident occurs that we all wake up to that and say, wow, this is happening, okay, go there, go and do something? Is that what we are really dealing with?
Well, I think it's a situation that has just bits of problem, not just one issue. Yesterday on the papers, the issue of over $44 billion now has been spent in the fight against insecurity in terms of
Exactly.
getting equipment.
Mm.
I think for the past 10 years or so was on the papers yesterday. And how can we account for that money spent? What are the gains so far in the fight against insecurity? So I think it's just a bit of everything just coming together to create a mess for us in this fight against insecurity. And we just need to begin to solve each problem going forward. It's not just about saying service chiefs relocate to Borno, service chiefs, you need to get grips on it. No, what are the
I
plans
give you
to
1
do
month,
to
like the
do
one in
this?
Niger State. I give you 1 month. I give you
What are the
this.
plans to bring normalcy? What are the plans to ensure the personnel, those who are going to be laying down their lives, are adequately taken care of, their families are adequately taken care of as well, giving them the equipment to match? I mean, not long ago, I think it was early this week, there was a post on how they got into the hideouts of some of them, and they saw how these guys were meticulously, recording the materials they have, who and who is getting what, from mobile phones to guns to bikes to even loans to these individuals. So they are taking care of their own people. How do we, are we also taking care of ours? Are we boosting their morale, to give their very best in these communities? We also don't want to be seeing people we put in office, talking about how these individuals are our brothers, and all of that, when we are fighting this war against insecurity.
Okay, fine. Let me even take the fact that they are our brothers. If you know they are our brother, then you know their parents. Can you tell their parents to hold them?
Can you effectively fight somebody you have labeled as your brother?
That is what I'm saying. So if your brother is hurting you, that means I know you down to your home. If I should call you my brother, which means I know your parents, I know your relative. You might probably even be my kinsman. And if I'm having an issue with you as a kinsman, we have to call the kindred to come together and have a conversation around it. So can we really talk to our brothers and tell them, or talk to the parents of our brother? Now I'm talking about the leaders. I'm talking about those who are calling the shot. Can you please tell them to please stop? Let's table this out and have this lasting peace, because it's getting worrisome, and it appears as if the statement that comes from the leaders seem not to be going very far in ensuring that we are not going to see these things again.
Well, sad situation.
Yeah, very sad.
Nigeria will prevail.
Amen.
Definitely.
Amen. All right, so let us wrap up the conversation here. Do not forget, we are wishing you Baraka de Salah. And of course, political platform be coming your way by 9:15. My name is Dima.
And I'm Shooks. Good morning.
Now, good morning. This one is Spyro saying stand by you.